to the Tavernside Chat with Will.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tavernside Chat here. I am your lovely Tavernkeeper Will, and here we have a wonderful guest and the ghostly spirit that lives in my head. Jake will be here making commentary somewheres through me. And before we introduce our phenomenal guest that we have here, go ahead, check out our merch store in the description. Also join our Discord server. The link will also be down in the towel section down below. Otherwise, getting into our amazing interview that we have here today. With us, you will have seen him by the time this comes out on our upcoming Halloween one-shot, The Green Nightmare. Felix, thank you so much for coming here today. How are you doing?
Doing great. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. It's really been exciting to be invited onto the podcast, and so just kind of get into some podcasting stuff myself. And this is awesome to be here. I'm excited.
So Felix, we go way back. We've been friends since we became friends in college. We've known each other for like 5+ years at this point, which is kind of crazy to think about. One of the groomsmen in my wedding, one of my greatest friends of all time. So we've been playing D&D together for the longest time, and I think out of all people, you have one of the most fascinating views or kind of like perspectives when it comes to TTRPGs and writing as a whole. Every time I get the pleasure to play one of your games, you always do such fascinating work with character and plot and story, but especially villains, which is our topic that we're going to be talking about today. So before we get into anything here, what is your D&D origin story? How long have you been playing it?
I've been playing D&D. Well, of course, we started freshman year of college. I think it was first semester. It was fall. We were the first session we ever played together was at a pond. Was in our hammocks, sitting around the trees.
Which was amazing. Hammock D&D was great. If you've never done Hammock D&D before, if you can, it's great.
It's great. I was an hour late. I had to walk to a CVS, the whole thing. But no, my first actual time I played D&D was actually my sophomore year of high school. I had a friend who was like, "Oh, I got the original box set," and it's the first.
Whoa!
It's one of the first boxes that came out right after 2014 came out, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." We did it for 2 hours. I loved it. I was like, "This is my thing." Everybody else did not. And then of course, in my childhood, I'm a huge LARPer. I currently do LARPing. I did LARPing since I was about 10 years old. I love role-playing. So I had just kind of weaved through high school, got into it my senior year of high school, and then did it throughout college. And I've been playing ever since. I'm currently doing a campaign. I've currently got a couple of projects in the work, and I've been getting into the podcasting scene. And so I love it. If I could make it a full-time job, I would.
No, it's wonderful. There's something about TTRPGs as a medium that is absolutely fascinating, as I would argue an art form in a way. The writing sides of it is always really fascinating. And I have to say, again, not to spend this whole time singing your praises, you are a fantastic dungeon master as well. The couple games that we've played together where you have DM'd, it has always been really interesting. One of them was the Guardians of Frau campaign that we did, which lasted for about it was a year and a half of
a year. Yeah.
It was a really good game, and one of the things that stood out about the game so much, and one of the reasons why I want to get you on the podcast here, is that the villains of that game were fascinating, at least from a like not only a like a acting level, but like from a psychological level. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that you put into that. In your mind, what makes a good villain for a TTRPG?
TTRPG villains are tricky. They're, I spent a lot of time with, I spent a lot of time with the plot, and I spent a lot of time with how am I going to get the characters attached, right? Like, how am I going to get them attached to something? And we had a couple of new players, especially in that campaign, and I knew that it was like nobody loves anything more other than hate somebody, right? Like, I think that it was really easy to be like, cool, you've got this person, you hate them for this reason, you've got specific reasons that your character hates them. And with TTRPGs, I think it's fun too, because it was like, okay, how do I get that person to then hate this villain, right? How do I get that person? I'm like, I know what gets them to tick. They're a good friend of mine. Like, I'm gonna make this villain make fun of them, or I'm gonna make this villain literally like give them anxiety. Like, I'm gonna give them like something attached to that person's personality that I think is fun. And you don't want to abuse anybody's traumas, anybody's triggers. You don't want to take advantage of those things. But like, if it's something that I know is an annoyance, you're gonna want to chase those people down, right? We had a whole, in that campaign specifically, there was a moment where a character was a villain for a time, and you guys skipped an entire dungeon because you were like, he is just annoying and we're gonna go hunt him down. And like, they ran through the dungeon, but I knew that like you guys would attach, because in TTRPGs it's like you can get heroes, you can introduce heroes that the players all hate, and you can introduce villains that the players all love. And so it can be really tricky to find that like medium, but I love relating it to a person, really.
Yeah, I think there's something really good in there, especially in our previous episode that we did with Dylan Roth from the podcast Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe? We had a really long conversation about knowing your audience and everything, because I mean, largely in TTRPG, you know who you're making it for because you literally have, like, they're your close friends at the table. I mean, if you're doing like a Adventurers League game or like a game with people you don't know already, it might be a little bit harder. But with like a group that you've been playing with, like, I mean, the table that we've been playing at together, we've been playing for like 5+ years now. And so like with that like group as a whole, we are not only really close as people, but also like I have been able to do things as a DM where I'd be like, I think I know how people are going to respond to this and plan things for certain outcomes where, and like, especially in that campaign too, I remember like there was a thing of like, that we all reacted really viscerally to body horror stuff. And so, or like kind of like, like just weird creepy monsters was one thing that we would talk about a whole lot of, like. And so one of the most vivid creatures from that campaign that always sticks in my head was like the weird Demigorgon from Stranger Things-esque looking things that had like they had like flaps for a face, but like it was like pure like cosmic looking energy, and it was able to shoot like a beam out of it that confused people, that can like put people under the confused condition. I think they were called like woe walkers or something.
It was the woe walker.
Those things still terrify me to this day, like. And I think that like it wouldn't be something that if we didn't know each other as well, it wouldn't have hit as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really a huge key if you're just playing a home game, and it's like, cool, you and I, we love Frankenstein, we love Dracula, we talk about monsters. So I knew, and there were some other people at the table there who loved the design of those things, and so it was like, yeah, if I create something genuinely actually scary to me, it will be more exciting for those people. I have gotten to games where like I brought the Woolwalkers into other things, and people were like, "Hey man, I'm gonna yellow card this, and we make them less scary." And I was like, "Yeah, that's so valid." Like, but I later found out that they preferred something more psychologically villainous, and so it's like, I find that newer players, if you give a scary monster, they're gonna try to kill it, or not all the time, but like a scary monster is more villainous to them than a person, than like a person just interacting, or a person with ideals. Yeah, those Woolwalkers were a lot of fun.
They were so terrifying. I've truly considered ways into bringing them stuff I've already done. By the time you guys will have seen this, the Green Nightmare project will have already come out, since this is coming out in November, December. One of the things that's been really fascinating to me in working on it, especially in Villains, is like capturing that specific fantasy like of something, because like as it is a very much inspired by the slasher movies of the 80s, and that's the thing there of in D&D, you see a terrifying monster and your default thing is to, oh cool, I'm gonna hit it until it dies. And so it's interesting trying to take those like stuff from different genres and trying to take morph stuff into working into a tabletop setting.
Yeah. No, I'm very as of this time I'm very excited for it. And I think the slasher sort of genre, especially in the 80s, because like you got to think historically what was scary at the time. What was the first? This 80s, closer to 50s.
That was the so I've actually done a paper on this. That was the start of the like Nancy Reagan moral panic. So like that is the 80s is satanic panic. So that's where you start have people freaking out about like like the morality, or like people really worried about like sex and violence and all different stuff like that. And so who is the people that the slashers always kill in those movies? Like the default joke there is that it's always the people who are like
sexual
doing
deviant
drugs or having sex. It's like what are the three rules in Scream? It's like you can never have sex, you can never do drugs or drink alcohol, and you can never say I'll be back. Like horror as a genre is so fixated in the times that they are written.
Well, and I think it was also really interesting too, because that era was like some of the most widespread that TV was spread out, and I think a lot of people really understood, throughout human history we understood scary violence, but I think the slasher industry, that attack on sex, drugs, and Satan is so interesting too, because it's like, okay, all of the villains in the slasher, they're doing something physically violent, but we can't stop the physical violence. And I think that was so like, it was so interesting, because it was like, why are they not stopping? Is it demonic? Is it zombie? Is it what is keeping them going? And I think it was so interesting too to like think about that genre, and think about just like, okay, this isn't the first time people have been introduced to horror, but it's one of the biggest times in terms of television that horror got really popular. I don't know if that's that's more so my opinion from when I look at it, but I'd say by and large, like, that was one of the things that defined the 80s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you also have to think about, like, we have a very, like, retrospective view of the 80s now being, like, 40 years ago. But, like, at the time, there was a lot of, like, really, like, horrific stuff going on all around the world, especially, like, modern nowadays, too. And that's why, I would argue we're seeing a boom in the slasher genre as of recently, because of the amount of publicized violence we see throughout all of the media and everything. Like, we are kind of become desensitized to it. So when you see someone getting like cut in half, it's not as terrifying. There's a reason why the Terrifier movies are so popular. It's because, you know, we're kind of desensitized to this idea of violence and everything.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like, that's one of the things, especially in TTRPGs, is that's like, I've gotten players who are like choosing to do something really, really violent, and I'm like, hey man, you could also just hit them. Like, you don't have to like describe what happens to that enemy. Like, and I think that kind of informs the sort of way that you make villains, because it's like you can always, I think, because violence can be done by so many people, you know, it's that person is violent, but are they a villain, right? Like, we are desensitized to violence, but why is, you know, the hero's violence different than the villain's violence? And that's something I think, like, if you're writing, you have to consider, you know, like, it's going to be super different if Superman flings somebody into space, whereas if a villain flings an innocent person into space. Like, there's so many items that come into that. So, like, violence.
Oh yeah.
I could talk about violence all day. Having such big. I'm super interested in medieval times, in LARP, and in like martial arts in general. And so, like, my relationship to violence is very different than a lot of people's. So it's kind of like, I think the slasher genre is very exciting because it's so scary, but not because of the violence. And I think that, like, I think that when you talk about a villain, you gotta like think about other reasons than just here's a violent person. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think you need more layers than just that.
We're having a really, oh no, absolutely. We were having a really interesting conversation with my students a little bit ago, because we were just reading The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, and like talk about a story with violence that has a guy strangling a man to death with a bed sheet and then cutting him up and hiding him underneath the floorboards there. But we had a very interesting conversation, like, with the idea of a protagonist and an antagonist, because we were talking about the idea of, like, cool, the narrator is our main character of the story. He's the protagonist, and a couple of the kids, and I was like, cool, who's our antagonist then? And a lot of the kids were like, well, there isn't one, because there's no, like, bad, or they'd be like, well, our main character can't be the protagonist because he's a bad guy. And I'm like, so that's, and like having to like explain that idea of the person who we fixate on in the story is our main character. Like, it's not like, if you're playing a villain game, you're going to have a completely different relationship to villain, like what your villainy is in a TTRPG and stuff like that. Like, you know, that idea between just being who we're focusing on can completely radically shift the tone of the game.
Yeah, and in the same way that you're trying to capture readers in Edgar Allan Poe or in any story, like, who are the readers going to focus on the most, or who are the players going to focus on the most? And that kind of thing is a bit different when you're talking about different types of media, and that's what I think makes TTRPGs so special. Is like, you can have, you know, in a story, the villain's not gonna address the reader and be like, the reader sucks, like, or the reader has no like game or no like class or whatever, or like, but in TTRPG, like, you can do that if you have a bunch of, you know, like, if you have a bunch of characters who, you know, like, oh, I can make fun of them for this specific thing, or they're not always making fun of, or I can get them at this thing that's like, oh, I'll threaten, you know, this specific village or this specific forest or this, like, you know, specific ideal, and you can shift. And I think that that's the really fun part about villains with D&D. And I think it's also like like because doing that um really attaches a feeling. Like, how does the villain make you feel? And that's the thing. That's why like some of our games have been so memorable, is because like, oh, it really felt villainous when they were doing that.
Like personal in a way where it's not uncomfortable. Of like, because any villain can threaten to take over the world. I know this is one of like Jake's big pet peeves when it comes to any sort of story writing. Jake, of course, is the ghost that lives in my head. Is that Jake hates any villain that is just there to like for power or anything. Like their one motivation is power. Like that is not a motivation. It can be, but like it's kind of a boring one, especially in a TTRPG of like, okay, cool. I like Vecna. If you're like, say you have Vecna as your big bad, or like say you have Scrod as your big bad, they're not threatening because they're like, oh, I want to get power. They're threatening because they're like, they can either pose like a cosmic threat to the players, or they've done something directly to them. Like, okay, cool, I want to get back at you for that. Like, it is always so much more interesting, and it's something that I always try to do when I'm DMing, is to at least, because the players need a reason to go on the adventure. Like, that's always something I say to my players, is you need to have, your character needs a reason to be here. Otherwise, what are you doing? Why are you still traveling with this party instead of doing something else? And so, if the villains are directly threatening the players, either in a personal sense or a cosmic sense, I think it adds so much more depth to the game there. Of like, okay, now that I'm fighting you because it's personal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's what made a lot of media that I enjoy really exciting, or a lot of like adventures that I've been on in TTRPGs really exciting, is that it's like, okay, I like, this person's hurt my character's partner, or this person's hurt like me. I'd say there's also something really interesting in finding balance too. In a campaign that I played as a player in your campaign, because you've also been one of the great DMs.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. I like it. Always keeps us coming back to playing in each other's games. It's great. And one of the things was that it was like, cool, there is an overarching like cosmic threat in a way, and there is like a character who like is threatening the world and threatening the stuff, and like that is bad. However, one of their henchmen has specifically hurt you, and I'm like, cool, if I go get the henchman, cosmic threat has specifically hurt me as well. And so it's like you're doing, it's two birds, right? Like and I think that like that also gives the players something to invest in. It's something that like you can then like spend whole arcs dealing with that player's personal threat and that player's personal villain, while also still addressing your cosmic villain. I think if you're just going to have a generalized, I want to take over the world, you've got to have layers. It's got to be in stages.
The ghost that lives in my head has told me, let me see your mission statement. Let me see your mission statement and infrastructure plans. How do they feel about universal health care? I'm not against world domination, just poorly executed world domination.
Oh, this is
what is
the
goal after they do it? Like after they take over the world, you have to elect a chamber of commerce or something. Like, yeah.
You have to have some kind of like system from like, cool, if I get my evil goblins from here to here, how do I supply that, right? What's the demand for goblins in the Shire? Or what's the demand for like supplies in that area? Like, I think it is really funny, but like, I think about like, so specific, but I think about Dr. Doofenshmirtz. He is evil, and he is trying to take over the tri-state area. Like, but he's not a villain because, like, he's not. I'm having this thought a little bit real time because he could be the greatest villain because he has no plan, right? Like, there's no what happens then.
It's
And,
like that one Heath Ledger Joker quote, like, I'm just a dog. I'm a dog chasing cars. I don't know what I'd do if I got one. Like, I would also personally would argue Dr. Doofenshmirtz is the perfect example of chaotic neutral. He wants to take over the tri-state area. I don't think that guy is actually evil. I think, and one of my friends did an entire PowerPoint presentation, shout out to you, Cade, where they were like, I don't think Dr. Doofenshmirtz is evil. I just think that this is an extended form of therapy for him, where he's just building these innators as a way of dealing with childhood trauma. And honestly, I would love to see that take Dan Povenmire.
I would love to see that take, because then you've got the therapy animal, and then you've got the whole...
Perry would be his therapy animal.
The whole deal. But but thinking about it, it's like, I've had players fully be like, hey, or it's like, we're in the middle of a dungeon fight, we're in the middle of like a big Apex thing, in the middle of an arc, and then somebody's like, hey, I'm sorry that like you weren't hugged enough as a child or whatever. And then, and I regret sometimes letting my players roll, because then of course they're gonna nat 20, and of course you're gonna have to honor that, and then you're like, oh, this is just because the villain had a bad childhood. Like, it's a very real thing. And so I think there's that cosmic balance of cool, they have their reasons, but it can't be undone for childhood reasons. Like, it can't be, like,
I don't think your BBEG can be. I don't think your BBEG can be Steven Universe. I do think your Rogues Gallery, they're like henchmen or like their lieutenants can be. Because you mentioned that, and like I have to say, because this is our villain episode, man, oh man, do I love my my Rogues Gallery. I love having your big bad threat, and then like the human embodiment of that threat, which you can't beat the big bad threat, but you can beat their human embodiment. And then they have a bunch of minions there. It is such a great rating tool. I'm also just love Batman a little bit too much. I love having a Rogues Gallery in a upcoming campaign that I'm running that you're actually a player in. Like, I've already started prepping out my Rogues Gallery of like specifically like making some of them like either tailored to each of the party members, because I love a Villainous team. I love myself a narrative foil who's supposed it's so interesting to me. It is always so fun to be able to create stuff to be a direct opposition to your players, because that way it also feels, not only does it feel so much more personal for the characters, I feel like as a player, that's like the greatest treat to be like, okay, cool, this DM made this bad guy for me.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, that's my whole deal when it comes to villains, is then you have that, and then you have like a reason to keep coming back to the adventure or to go on the adventure. Like, and you said it, when it takes us back to making it personal. Like, I think that the Rogues Gallery idea is really fun too, because then it's like, then you have all of your friends then helping you, and like getting to see everybody work together to defeat, like, everybody coming together as a team to like make a beautiful thing happen, even if that's killing a villain, like is like, that's the whole point of TTRPGs, is the fun of doing it together. And so like seeing your friend help you or go out of their way to help you defeat your personal villain is only going to bring you closer to that friend. And so like, write the narrative foil, like get a Rogues Gallery going, like that's, I think that's a really good, like, if anybody's ever like struggling from where to begin, start there. Like, if you're trying to like find something to connect to a player.
Also, because I'm realizing, if you don't know what a narrative foil is, a narrative foil is basically a character that's supposed to be the exact inverse of one of your player characters or your main character. So, like, Batman and the Joker, like, those are foils for one another. They're kind of opposites in some ways. Just because, in case anyone didn't know what that was, in TTRPGs, what is your favorite villain that you've either made or you've had as the BBEG of a campaign?
I was thinking about this a lot today. Because I knew that you'd ask me something along the lines of what is my favorite villain. And some of I would say one that I didn't get a chance to fully see out. A lot of the rogues gallery got attacked and dealt with, but I really wanted to see what would happen to oh no, I can't remember all of a sudden.
I hate when that happens. Where it's like,
campaign.
oh yes.
Which, funny, no, I think I remember I named it like Boromir or something, and it was some like fiery god and stuff, and like
Moradin? No, not Moradin. Moradin was the dwarf guy we fought in the volcano.
Yeah. But I did make it something. But either way, I got made fun of because it was a Lord of the Rings name, and I'll never forget that. And I haven't even read all the books. Like, I'm currently working on one for the first time in my life, and I thought that
congratulations, your nerd card has been revoked.
Perfect.
It's
That's
okay.
fine.
I haven't read any of I know nothing about Game of Thrones either. I don't care about Game of Thrones. That's my hot take. That's actually what's going to get us canceled. I don't like Game of Thrones. Yeah. That's an idea.
Yeah, that's how you can tell the nerddom is passing through the generations. It's like, well, we don't really care about The Hobbit or Game of Thrones, but we love Over the Garden Wall. We love Steven Universe.
Man, The Beast is one of the best.
My thing too is I don't know a whole lot about Game of Thrones, and I'm not going to make a lot of assumptions, but who was the villain, right? They were all very villainous to each other, and they were all very villainous in different ways. But it's also the crowd couldn't get attached to one winner or one loser. And that doesn't have to always be one winner or one loser, but it was too unclear from what I understand. And with the Heroes of Frau campaign that we were in, that I ran, my big evil villain, he was the brother of the king god, and you guys built a lot of trust with the king god.
Golemir.
Golemir, yes. Oh my god.
I found a historical relic, which is my notes doc from that campaign, and the map you made for that too.
It's great. It was a good time to be stuck on your computer a lot.
This was 2020 for people who don't know. This is all we had to do was be outside. That's why we had to play in hammocks, is because we couldn't gather inside at all.
The library wouldn't let us get a big room.
Without
you couldn't
masks
have enough people in the dorm.
No, we would. That was the only place we could play.
Yeah, but Golemir was so fun to me because he had separate ideals from his twin brother, right? And he wanted to share magic with everyone, while the king didn't want to share the magic, and so he was one of my favorite villains because he took the hope out of the room. And I think that's the greatest villain, is any thing or person that can really diminish people's hope, right? And that's what makes the best heroes, is cool people who either inspire a lot of hope or people who always have hope. And so you had said earlier, the beast from over the garden wall is a great monster and a great villain, because when we talk about the beast, it's, it literally sucks the hope out of the room. And I
There's
think,
that line, he is the night, he is the death of hope. Like, it's not even subtext, it's text at that point. Like,
it's text. And I think too, like, people in general are afraid of the dark, or like are afraid of, like, we as humans, we're afraid of like what happens in the night. But you don't have to have a dark, scary creature or like a shadowed villain in order to like remove hope. You can have somebody dressed all in white, like, and who literally is like a sun god or something that like just really ruins hope. And this is very specific, but I think of, this might get us canceled, is Thor Love and Thunder. Was a moment in which I've seen one of the brightest villains I've ever seen. And it's not the individual who like wielded the sword. It was the sun god who
yes, at the start of the movie.
He killed at the very start of the movie. Spoilers for a movie that came out like 2-3 years ago. But
three.
But 3, and he had all of his hope in that god, and the god was like, no, like I don't. There is no hope for you. Like, that sucks to suck, dude. Like, and instantly he became the villain for that character, and I think that's so interesting. That's like somebody who betrays your trust is instantly a villain a lot of the times, and you can rebuild trust, but like if it's breakable enough or something, trust breaking enough, like that is a villain at that point.
Where you get stuff like, no, all gods will die. Like, I think you bring up something fascinating with gore. Is one of a trope that I've seen in media often, which
Gore is the name of the villain in Thor Love and Thunder, right?
Gore the God Butcher. I think an issue that I've seen in media is, I think we're making it so like we have to understand the villain's motivation 100% of the time. Like, I think something collectively broke it in writing when like Zuko from Avatar came out, which, like, no shade to Avatar, Zuko was a phenomenal character. He's not a villain. Zuko is an antagonist at best. Like, he is like Aang's narrative foil. He is like the reverse of him there. But I think that like there's a lot of problems in media ever since, like, we got Maleficent, where we have to understand the villain's motivation, and the villain has to be like at least somewhat redeemable in some way. My favorite villain of all time in any piece of media is Maleficent from Disney's Sleeping Beauty, and that is a character who unabashedly is evil, and like we got the tragic backstory for her, but I don't think 9 times out of 10 every villain needs to be redeemable or understandable. I think you can just have somebody who wants to hurt people because that's realistic. Like, not everyone has like 20 pages of backstory of how they're wrong. Some people are kind of just evil and want to hurt people.
And it is sad but true that is something that, a lot of times we face in society. Like, there are just going to be people, and I think about this in terms of like, some people have families, some people have partners, some people have like, very good friends where you'll never understand, or even like local leaders or like bosses, where it's like you'll just never understand why they are so, mean or terrible to whether that's you or another person. And I think that because we always want to know, writers by and large in larger pieces of media are like, yeah, let's tell the reader why the villain is being villainous. That's not really real life. Like there's just not going to be times where you get the answer as to why this person is being villainous. And I think it's sad, but it is true. And I think that's what makes TTRPG so relatable and exciting, is that it's like, cool, well, the DM does know why it's happening. And as the players, we want to find out, right? Like, we want to find out. And that's half the adventure.
I think there's something very fascinating you bring up there, and we were having this conversation too with Dylan Roth a little bit ago, of like, how much do you want to engage with the idea of realism, of like, this is how the world works, and how much do we want to engage with the fantasy nature of it, of like, this is how we wish this is how we wish the world works. There's been many times where I've just been like, hey, this thing doesn't exist in our world, in this fantasy world, because it's fantasy. The idea of fantasy is that as a genre, it is escapism at the end of the day. We are going to another world. I don't think fantasy as a genre would exist if there weren't parts of our world that sucked to live through. And I think that at the end of the day, when it comes to evil or stuff like that, that's why fantasy is such a fascinating representation of our world, because you get to make the changes you want to, but at the end of the day too, there's some part of it that is escapism, of like, okay, cool, in real world we don't get to kill, like the bad guys always escape punishment. In our fantasy world, they do. Like in the real world, like the CEOs don't, like the CEOs just get fined. They don't get punished at all for the thousands of lives that they hurt. Asterisks, I guess.
I get. But that's why it was so that's why that was so exciting for some people, right? Like, was that when CEO gets punished, sometimes people are like, you should be nicer to them, but it's also like, that's exciting for people because like, we never see a villain be villainized, and is it sad that people use violence to do it? Yes, that's why we do violence in fantasy world, right? Like, because violence, no matter where you go, is a whole other conversation I could get into, but like, we can get into the ethics of violence as a way of speech. Like, that is a huge deal. That is something I do not have a PhD for. Yeah. No, literally, you need to just study it entirely differently. Yeah. But that's kind of, I think that you bring up something, like, I think that is really interesting. That well, we want to see villainous people be punished, and that's why as players it's so exciting to be the one to punish the villains. And so that's why it becomes interesting the more I think about, like, oh, well, who is the villain, or who is my favorite villain? Is it the actual person, or is it a person standing up to agree with capitalism, or to abuse capitalism, or to invoke and entertain colonialism, or you kind of start to talk about those larger things, and sometimes that's really difficult for players, or that's maybe not difficult for players, but it's too realistic. Let's just be they're evil, they're bad is perfect for those players, even if it's not always the beat that some people want to march to.
And I think that that's where allegory can come into play, where you're not saying it, but the connections and the way that it's interpreted and stuff like that is very, very important there, or can like help us have those conversations without really, talking about it like wholeheartedly. One of the like in our Legends of Abhaile campaign that we have currently going on, the Disinherited, one of our big plot lines is that there is a drug that is ravishing our the kingdom and stuff like that. And so that is something where it's like a real world conflict. Like I don't think anyone hold on, how am I phrasing this? No one doesn't know someone that hasn't been affected by drug use in some way, shape, or form. And so it's real and prescient. But the fact that it's a fictional drug too helps us make those connections where it's not like, okay, cool, and this world is being ruined by ketamine. No, it's like we have the fantasy drug Fern there, which might have resemblances, but again, we're playing in the world of allegory there.
Yeah. Well, I think that you bring up something interesting too, because I ran a campaign last year that was that had kind of a similar plot structure, but it was the city of Manukai, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna build an 8-mile high city, and that's the vibe. And there was a drug running rampant through the city, and it but the thing was that it was I kind of this drug, and it was dangerous, but it gave people magic powers, and that was the big plot. And so it was yeah, here's this drug, but it's for some people's situations, you understand why people might take them. And that was a big conversation we had at the end of certain sessions. That was hey, because my mother personally is an addict, and we've been touched by addiction, and so playing in a game sometimes where it's yeah, we know this thing is bad, but it's again that knowing your villains motivations, where it's yeah, I understand this person takes drugs. You have to understand their childhood. You have to understand it from a therapeutic place. And it's also so when you're playing the game, I had somebody who was yeah, I'm going to use this for magic powers. But I had another player who was so vehemently oh, hey, case in point, drugs bad. And then they made a case for our drugs good, and I was okay, we gotta yellow card a little bit, because it's well, no, drugs are not good, but you have to have, everything has to have some level of gray light, but we don't have to exist in tones of gray, right? You can have in your guys' campaign where it's cool, this is actually just harmful. This has no benefit, and it is bad.
It actually kind of did, though. In our previous, because this episode will be out, the episode we just recorded last night, my character got, and as reminded by the ghost in my head, Jake, my character got stabbed with a claw that was dipped by a monster's claw that was dipped in it, and there was a mechanical benefit to it. I got a plus 10 movement speed and I was basically under the haste spell under it with a little bit weakened, and I'm well, there's a mechanical benefit, but it was for 1 hour you had you had to make a Constitution saving throw, and then 1 hour later I made my Constitution saving throw, so I don't know what happened, but I'm guessing something bad would have happened if I failed it. It's how we were having that conversation about Fallout a little bit ago, of it's interesting to have a game where to get ahead in the game, it kind of incentivizes you to do drugs. And what does that say about either the setting, the world, stuff like that? Also, in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, where are the drug manufacturers? Where are people getting this stuff?
You find them on certain missions.
Okay, cool. There's an actual answer to this. Lovely.
There is an answer in game, but it's also So when we talk about those items, and I don't want to like linger on this too long, but I had there was a book that I finished reading. Shout out to the Bright Sword. Spoilers for the very last page, but there's a character in it who thinks the thought to themselves, and I've been stuck on this for quite some time. So I'm excited to share it with you. Is that they think to themselves, why are we born to live in a bright world, and we live in a dark one? And
whoa,
and there is just a level of like, okay, hey, you kind of have to accept that there will be bad things, and you have to accept that there are good things. And there will never be a perfect answer, because because the people, until we get the people making decisions to start scooping the shit, we will never get closer to that perfect bright world.
And I think that's the power of fantasy and the power of TTRPGs, is it
Exactly.
lets us live in that world. I think there's a really good argument of TTRPGs as escapism or therapy in some way, of not like an actual therapy. TTRPG therapy is a whole thing, and is absolutely fascinating to read into.
Have an essay on it.
Yeah, no, I think you sent me that essay. I think I helped.
I think I did.
Check that over. Great essay.
Nice.
It was I think that there's something very fascinating of being able to look at the fantasy of it and imagine the world that we want to see, where good prevails and evil is quelled. And so I think that in a sense of writing, in a sense of TTRPGs, that is the power of fantasy, is it lets us live in the world that we want to, just for a fleeting moment. I mean, I'm going to break my counter, Jake, but Brendan Lee Mulligan famously has said the bad guy's capitalism. And so every single one of his campaigns, in some way, especially in the most recent one, Cloudward Ho, there's a giant villainous faction that is a bank, or in Never After, you could argue that the villain of it was the pull of nihilism that we live under in a capitalist society, that urge to just burn it all down and restart.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to that when you think of writing your villains, is that it's okay, how do I understand my players live in the world that they live in, and I have to try to understand their world, so I need to make sure my fantasy world doesn't hurt the players, but that they have something to relate to, so that they are invested, and I think too, there's a subtle note that I'm going to make on that. That's that make it make sense in your fantasy world. I did this mistake once where I was cool, there's no currency here. People just get the resources they need, and people get the medicine they need, and people get the stuff that they need. And then I started to unravel myself, that I was oh, cool, why are people upset? And then I was you know what? That person's just bad. Make it make sense in your fantasy world, but you have to consider does the world set up your villain to be villainous? How our world sets up our villains, CEOs and the like, to be villainous. To be, if you abuse people around you, you could in some ways get ahead, and that's villainy. That's villainy in a larger sense.
Absolutely. So we're kind of approaching, moving towards our last 30 minutes ish here. So I have a game prepped for us.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I have created 4 player characters and backstories, I want us to create a big bad evil guy for this campaign with these 4 different player characters.
If I find out that I've created a villain for a campaign I'm playing in for you, we're gonna have words.
Okay. Well, it depends on how good of a writing job that we do here.
Okay.
So, our 4 players that we have, I've come up with, and I have done this in the most realistic table possible. So, our first character, we have an elf fighter who has sent you a 20-page backstory about his entire family history, his entire clan, he comes from a noble family and has been exiled from them due to a deep, intense political rivalry between 2 factions of elves, and is now a traveling swordsman.
Okay.
So that's our first character.
That's the first character.
That's our first character. Second one, human druid. He was raised by wolves in the woods. That is all you've been given for his backstory.
A real backstory I've gotten. That just shout out to the listeners that don't do that. No,
don't do that. Give your
me a little
DM something.
Hey, raised by dragons, raised by anything other than wolves.
Don't do. Hey, another reason why Doofenshmirtz is the best villain, raised by ocelots.
Exactly.
Dwarf cleric. He spent his whole life underground and is now going up to the surface to try and investigate the disappearance of his god and why he can't hear him anymore. And Dampier Bard. They did not give a backstory, and they're now claiming that their character has amnesia as a cop-out.
Okay.
So this is our party. We got the elf fighter with the 20 pages of that backstory. Human druid raised by wolves. Dwarf cleric spent his whole life underground and now has gone up to the surface to investigate why he can't hear his god anymore. And then the Dampier Bard, horny bard, did not give you a backstory, is claiming amnesia. The ghost in my head is telling me that he's been all 4 at some point. I was gonna say, great job on picking your player characters, because this is a real party. This is a real party. I think I'm
Like,
actively running for this party right now.
Well, and shout out to the dwarven cleric, because that's the most like if you're looking for an example of how much backstory you need, perfect. That's exactly perfect. Like
half a page and 3 NPCs is perfect.
Exactly. I would say when writing for this party, start with your most complicated one. Start with the one that, and I truly mean this, that is start with the one that scares you the most. That's cool. How do I tackle, Mr. Amnesia or 20 pages? To me, those would be the first 2 that I'd be and there's a couple of ideas that come immediately to mind. Is one, make the Amnesia Bard the god who the dwarf can't contact. Right?
Oh, that's yeah. That's actually I didn't even think about that. That's kind of a great idea.
Well, it's clear to me that the bard doesn't really care what their backstory is, and when they find out they're a god, they're gonna have a great time. That's gonna be perfect. So, and then the dwarf. It sounds like to me too. You've got 2 characters really attuned to nature, really attuned to the world around them, to the forest, to the thing, and so they, and obviously the 20-page character. If you include the forest, or if you include something that enough that covers enough of their 20 pages, they're gonna hop right into that. And the druid be druidic. So it's if all of a sudden you're doing a forest thing and they don't care about the druid, you might have to pivot. But initial thought really is to make sure my devices don't
Uh-oh.
give out on me. I apologize. But my initial thought is to make the bard a god that the dwarf is worshipping, and the god is some kind of god of song amongst the trees, or is bird song, right? Is literally the god of like music that the birds make, and the god. The reason that the dwarf can't hear the god is because they've been hearing the bird song, the call of their god, through the roots of the trees, right? And so your villain now is deforestation.
Oh,
villain
that's fun.
Is fully deforestation, and because everybody cares about trees, right? Everybody cares about trees, but like specifically the elf, druid, the person who's lived underneath the trees, right? Who's lived underneath the mountain and underneath the earth, has to care about trees, and your bard who doesn't care a whole lot will still be like, okay, I guess the trees are a good and important thing. And you can really get involved with the elf there and be like, cool, you've been exiled, but now we need you. We need you for this thing. And then you have you're only asking me to arrive because you need me kind of relationship, or you can pull different characters from that backstory. You start having relationships and friendships with the other characters to get them involved. It's a little bit like when we go and meet Galadriel from Lord of the Rings. When we go to the land of the elves, we meet a lot of other characters. That's the dwarf, he wanted locks of her hair. He had some kind of relationship with her. She also had a relationship with Aaron. I'm gonna get canceled for that.
There's such a weird, deep lore reason that they came up with after the fact to make that moment make sense in the most Star Wars way possible. Of there's a character who was I want to he wanted 3 locks of her hair in a way to own her almost, and so when he asked for it, it's because he appreciated her beauty so much, but he didn't want anything. And when pressed, he was like, "Hey, you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen. Could I have 3 locks of your hair to remember you by?" And so it was a thing of he wanted it because he thought he wanted to appreciate her, not to own her. It's a whole thing. I also wonder if we, on the idea, because our bard is a Dhampir, I wonder if the reason they got revived as a Dhampir is because now that they're no longer a god, they have to have some other way to sustain themselves, aka they're a vampire now.
Yeah.
Or that
and I think too, I was gonna say
also,
you could even
maybe
start
with the
from a place.
Oh, sorry, you go first.
This is what I love when we get in these conversations, because we both get so excited. But you could even start from a place. I started with the elf when I was thinking mostly being cool, we've got to get involved with the woods. We've got to get them back involved with their family, because that's drama, and then moved on to the dwarf cleric and the bard, because if you could even start a place with the Dhampir bard and be he has amnesia because he had to undergo becoming a vampire, or becoming a vampire spawn. There's definitely a good in-game reason, but I think that I forgot completely that the bard was a Dhampir. That's a lot of fun, and players, I find, if they truly don't care about their backstory, they're not gonna pick Dhampir. You know what I mean? They're not gonna pick something really interesting. So if you have something that's oh, okay, well, it sounded somewhat interesting, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Dampier. Like, cool. Attach it to them, and then they're like, oh my god, I made an awesome choice by picking Dampier. Like, I made an awesome choice there. And I think you could do some kind of relation, between why they lost their memory. You also had an idea.
Oh, I was going to
with
say,
that.
I wonder also if the reason why the elf fighter, his family calls him back, is because since our villain is a metaphor for deforestation, I wonder if like their home is gone, like because elves like live in trees in some canon and everything. So like, hey, we need you back. Our old city with all that intrigue is leveled now. We're now in our like extant kingdoms, or like the people we were allied with that you also came up with names for and cousins because you just got done like reading about King Henry VIII or something.
Yeah, well, and you don't even have to like call them back. You could just be like, you're on the road and you see a cart and you see a caravan and you see people you recognize and you see, you know, your cousin this and cousin Jeremy and Sarah and Mary and it's like, oh, what are you guys doing out here? And then they fill you in on the story and they're like, well, we also thought we found Jenny, but I don't think Jenny made it out. And then they're like, my ex, you know, or my sister or my, you know, somebody related that I care, somebody with relation that I care about is still there. I've got to go. Like, somebody from my backstory is still there. I got to go do that. And so now, like, the party finds a reason to revolve around their friends to be like, cool, here's arc 1. Arc 1 is, let's go get Jenny back. Arc 2 is like the druid then, you know, can help resolve the curse or crisis that is like ruining the trees, you know, and you go through some cursed thing and the dwarf like I don't always put my characters in specific arcs, but that's how you kind of get them started, is like you could just pick from somebody's backstory and that also makes that player feel seen for all of the pages that they put in. I try to make sure people don't do that many pages, but when it happens, see them, you know.
I think the most I've ever given the DM was I gave 8 pages, and I even myself feel like, hey, I think I went too overboard on this one.
Yeah. I know I'm quoting somebody else here, and I don't know who it is though, is that like once you reach a certain amount of pages, go write a book. Like, go write a book and ask your friends to read it. Like, that is also just as like satisfying. Shout out to you.
I think it was XP to level 3 who said that, if I remember right.
I'm not 100% sure, but there's something to that. That's like, it is the player's job to leave enough for the DM to play with. There's, hey, here's what I'm really interested in. Here's the items that I'm really interested in like, in exploring with this character, whether that's themes or specific pieces of backstory. But like, I want to leave this up to your choice because you should also, as the DM, enjoy the game. Like,
There's when we started doing character creation for Disinherited, Jake did one of the greatest things I think a DM has ever done, in my opinion. And one of the questions he had on our Google Docs survey was, what themes about yourself do you want to explore with this character? Which I think for any sort of long-term campaign is absolutely necessary, because at the time of recording, I think we just recorded episode 32, I believe. And so like I have been in a hunter's headspace for over like 100 hours of game time at this point. And so that when you're in a character's head for 100 hours, that gets deeply personal there. And so I think that's a great thing to ask your players of, hey, what story do you want to explore, or what themes about yourself do you want to hit on with this character? Or like, and if you have someone who turns in the 20-page backstory, ask them, okay, cool, how much of, like, what is most important to you about this? Like, that's always the great thing to be of, like, okay, cool, what do you want me to focus on when it comes to this backstory? Because we're not getting to all 20 pages. The ghost in my head also did say it has been only 11 days of in-game time too.
Which is so real.
It's so real. I think there was one episode like a series of 4 episodes we did that took place over the span of 2 hours of in-game time, which was just us exploring a town and stuff like that, and we just went so in depth on some of those scenes there. But yeah, I think we have a great villain here, kind of like in that idea of, like, you know, like the violence of this character is kind of the violence of deforestation, like, you know, metaphor for a real world issue that we're facing. Or like, we can even go like desertification, where like the land that we do have is getting, like, maybe some kind of force that's literally sucking the life out of the land.
Right. Well, and like,
notice also how we and notice how we didn't even come up with a name or anything or a backstory for this guy. We're just coming up with something that's going to target each of these characters and their backstories and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's kind of, you don't have to have it written all the way out on the first session. Mm-hmm. I am currently in a campaign where we're about to get to like the real inciting incident, and we will have played by the time this comes out, but like the father of the king he's gonna go crazy. He goes crazy at a tournament, and then he runs away, and then they have to go get him and whatnot, and the whole thing is gonna be overarching of, like, you know, dealing with your family's, you know, demons, or dealing with your family's choices, even when you weren't there for those things. And like, it's a very, it's essentially, I wrote 4 kings and a queen, and like, I wrote their ages, and this kingdom's been in place for 500 years, and it's like, oh, that's gonna feel really lore heavy. But I don't even have all the lore put together, and I don't have a full villain put together at this time, but I'm gonna send them on this adventure, and we're going to figure out what kind of monsters uncover from the family dynamics, because all the players are related. All the players are part of the family. And so, like, they're creating their own drama. So I say all of that because you don't have to have that figured out. You just have to have your story beat that is, okay, something's going wrong here in the forest. And that's why, like, that's what's going to get everybody attached. And I really love the idea of specifically the bard, is that, like, well, you won't be able to have your powers until the birds have somewhere to live where they can then sing their songs and you can strum your guitar, like you can play your flute or whatever.
Hey, did we just make the Lorax?
Yeah, we did.
Just make the Lorax in D&D. Is that what we just did here accidentally? Like,
I think we did. Or it's the Onceler. The Onceler is our villain.
The big bad guys are Onceler. Well, and I also wonder if we're going with the full Lorax thing. Also, the ghost in my head has said that you can have a great villain and the audience knows nothing about them, just seeing the effects of what they do. Like, faceless characters are terrifying in that sense of, okay, cool, we don't know who they are, but we've seen what they can do, and it's terrifying. Like, that's an amazing. I love seeing when they do that. But
that's thriller,
I think also,
really.
Have you seen the movie Fern Gully?
I have. I love Fern Gully. Yeah.
I truly think maybe we could, if we want to like come up with like a villain, we could have like some kind of like evil CEO of some kind, or like an evil, like, guild leader, or who is like kind of like, caught, like, who's also like an evil wizard devoted to like this Hexus type god of like decay. And so he's using his power to absorb all the life force and maybe, I don't know, turn it into healing potions so that he could sell them at a markup.
I like that, because you could even just be like, oh, well, he's absorbing the life from the land. But I kind of love the small factor of he's also selling healing potions. Is really funny. And just in terms of a little bit of context, that's like, oh, it's straight up capitalism. It's not even like
again, Bradley Mulligan,
can cast more
capitalism is
powerful
bad
spells.
guy.
And it's a good bad guy. Like, you don't have to like the umbrella of it is pretty wide.
And also that can leave us to a really cool final fight where like after we have like we defeat like you have one of my favorite things, a 2-stage fight of like, cool, you think the fight is just defeating the evil CEO, and then when you reduce him to 0 hit points, that's where his body erupts into fire, and then this giant monster of decay and like unlife, this like this necromantic horror just emerges from his body, and you're like, okay, cool, fight 2 there, you're at half hit points, wonderful, fight for your lives against this thing.
Like it and there is something to that. There is something that is like the metaphor gets deeper. I'd even to play off of your two-part fight is that it's like, cool, the CEO bursts into flames and then reaches in the ground and pulls out some kind of thick, black, liquidic monster that then erupts from the ground, and then you're just having an oil monster as you're going.
Oh,
that is just
that's
like,
even cooler to have.
And he like bursts the oil into flames, and now you've got stuff falling all over the environment that's like hot oil piles, but it's also like literally like he was taking the forest for oil, or like, and you don't have to do that because it's fantasy, but like it could be a resource, it could be a whole bunch of other things, and I think there's so many like ways you can go off of it. I think you just have to start somewhere when you have your party.
I think that this is honestly a really cool campaign now. And it would also be if I actually made this villain, it would be the second time I've put the Once-Lure in a D&D game as a villain. Like,
if I had a nickel.
If I had a nickel for every time I put the villain, the Once-Lure into a D&D game, I'd have 2 nickels. It's weird.
If this episode's been defined,
been
defined by anything, we can't do this. Go ahead.
It's Dr. Doofenshmirtz. This episode is weirdly bringing up Dr. Doofenshmirtz. I think this is our 3rd time.
This episode's been defined by Dr. Doofenshmirtz and the Once-Lure, because once we brought up the Once-Lure, I couldn't stop thinking about the picture that you guys made of me as the Once-Lure at the start of our freshman year campaign, and I want you to know I still have that photo.
I still.
So if you want that as your
that we'll have that as the front cover. Well, there was also in that series, it was you as the Grinch too, and then you as Gru from Despicable Me. And you as Gru from Despicable Me is still my contact photo for you.
That's messed up. That's fucked up.
I think that we also put my face on Bob Ross at some point, because that's when I had like a lot longer of hair too. Freshman year.
Hey, all your villains just come from a handful of animated movies, and that's all you need to work with.
I feel like if we had more time, we should go through the Illuminations catalog and just that maybe that'll be our another episode where we just turn Illuminations characters into D&D villains. I think the minions can be a great cosmic horror threat. They already are.
You know
let's
what?
be real.
Next time, if you'd like, we can have an episode about minions and hirelings. Not the yellow minions, but just like
No,
the
we
henchmen
actually
for
let's do an entire episode about the minions and how the fact that they were canonically in the ice from the years of 1880 to 1960 because they didn't want to have to talk about where the minions would have been in 1940.
Yep. And that's beautiful writing, right?
And that's beautiful
As a
writing.
DM,
You love having
avoid
to.
what you want.
Yeah, as a DM, you can explain away anything. Well, we are getting to closing time here at the tavern, so we have two final segments here. Our first one is one that I have shamelessly stolen from Pop Culture Happy Hour. It is called "What's Making You Happy This Week." This is anything that you've read recently, that you've been in any media that you've been on your mind, that's been on your mind as of late.
Yeah. Well, number one, this made me really happy all week.
Oh, thank
I was
you.
very excited for this. This has been a blast. And honestly, right now, shout out to Fallout the series. And not the game series. I'm currently rewatching season 1 of the Amazon Prime series. Be excited for season 2 while I play Fallout 4.
It's because I got you back into it, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. We'll play 76 together, and
we'll play 76
and muscle
together.
Through it if it's bad.
No, completely fair. I still need to watch Fallout. I'm debating on whether or not I want to finish the game first. I know that there's not really any spoilers or anything.
I would say, and for the listeners too, finish the main story of 4, learn a little bit more lore, or do a summary video of Fallout 3. If you get the chance to play it, it's fantastic, but it's, that's a lot of hours. Do that, fully do summaries of 1 and 2, and then get an understanding of New Vegas. And then, just get summaries of the rest of them. Because when you play them, it's still fantastic. Still, you just can't. You can't master perfect.
I know I have to watch the TV show at least before. What was making me happy this week also ties into that. We have fully by the time this is aired, we've already done this. I will have gone on my honeymoon, which we have completely paid for and gotten everything for.
Very exciting.
We have our tickets for
I'm excited
Halloween
for that
Horror
word.
Nights. Thank you so much. We have our tickets for Halloween Horror Nights, which is also one of the reasons I want to finish Fallout and then watch the series, because I know that the Fallout house that they're doing this year is based off of the TV show and a little bit of the games here. I have a list of I don't know what's gonna be there. I want to see a ghoul, I want to see a radroach, and I want to see a deathclaw. Those are the 3 things I want from that house. I want to see each of those things.
It's a good pick.
Yeah,
it's a perfect
I
pick.
want to see maybe we can get a Mr. Handy in there, or a Mr. Stabby, whatever they call the murderous ones.
Some kind of General Atomics.
That and also the FNAF house is going to be killer. I've heard people from reviews already that it's not scary, but it's one of the most technologically impressive houses that they've done. I will not be going in the Terrifier house. You could not pay me money to do that.
It's when you love horror and when you love thriller. I still have a hard time watching most horror movies, but I love the genre.
I love horror.
blame you.
Horror is one of my favorite genres. I love Terrifier as a idea. I could never watch those movies those are too disgusting for me. I can appreciate the artistry behind them, though. The 3-day shoots for certain kills of characters is very impressive, and the amount of blood work and animatronic and practical effects is amazing. Cannot do that.
I'll have to look this up. This sounds great.
Yeah, the Terrifier movies are fascinating. I wouldn't recommend them. They're one of those things of they are worse than Saw.
Brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, worse than
That'll be
Saw.
interesting.
Well, but yeah, so before we go, is there anything you would like to shout out before we head out for the evening?
Shout out to tea. I've been just drinking a lot of tea, man. Shout out to tea. Shout out
Just the
to
concept of tea.
It's the concept. But really, if you decide to DM, the number one thing is whenever I'm DMing full time, it pushes me to take care of myself. So that's why I shout out to tea, is because I've been writing a lot. And so,
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Exactly. Shout out to taking care of yourself, man. That's
Really good,
best
really
I
good
got.
thing. Anything you want to plug before you go?
I'll plug my girlfriend's ASMR channel. It's Pegasus ASMR on YouTube. She's been killing it right now, and she's been doing great. A lot of really good sort of trigger stuff. Other than that, nothing at the moment.
Sweet. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you all so much for watching. Keep telling stories. Thank you so much to Felix for coming out on this amazing show. And by the time this comes out, you will have already seen this in The Green Nightmare. Other than that, bye-bye, y'all. Keep telling stories. Love you so much.